Welcome. This is the Drupal usability meeting for January 2nd, 2026. I'm Benji Fisher, sharing my screen and moderating, and also present are Ralph Kohler and Simo Helston. So I think we're getting very close to finishing this issue. For the sake of the recording, it's 3370326. Refine labels and descriptions for field types. And Ralph and Simo, I know you're very familiar with it. Um, in the Zoom chat, I'm pasting in uh, the ngrok version of my local site. Um, can log in as usual. And toolbar vertical, content types. Get the Zoom window out of the way. Manage fields. And this issue deals with the interface text in this modal window and the next step in the process. Um, and we're down to just a few disagreements with the two people who've been reviewing the merge request. Um, and I just want to review their comments. And I think that if we're willing to compromise on a few points, we can probably get this issue finally to RTBC. So it shows 7 open threads. The first couple, we commented. Derek hasn't replied to the latest comments. Um, and I think that Derek will be willing to resolve the thread. So I don't think we need to look at that one. So that was one of the two. This is the second one, also opened by Derek. Um, and again, we replied. Derek hasn't said anything. That was 2 months ago. But then there are several threads, 5 more to go. So let's see, this is number 3. Um, so let's see, entity reference item. And it's just these two sentences: choose from all available options on the next screen, and any content or configuration can be referenced. Larry asked, do we need this line? It seems unnecessary and potentially confusing, since if you pick other, the content/config would still be limited by the selection on the next screen. Um, I had a sort of technical reply to that. And in the latest comment just a week ago, so I think that was actually on Christmas Day, at least in my time zone. I don't think that proposed text makes it any clearer what we're trying to communicate here. I proposed above a change to the text which would allow removing this while explaining that content and configuration types can be referenced. So let's first look at that bit of text in context. It's these 2 bullet points here at the bottom. Choose from all available options on the next screen. Any content or configuration can be referenced. And then, let's see, this was the 3rd open thread. I'm going to skip to the 7th. So 4, 5, 6, 7. And at this point, Larry made a text suggestion which basically combines those 2 sentences. Instead of choose from all available options on the next screen, choose any content or configuration type to refer on the next screen. And let me copy that text and use browser tools to show what it would look like. Um, let's just do it that way. Um, so Laurie is suggesting removing the second bullet point and expanding the first bullet point to include the phrase content or configuration type. Um, any comments on that suggestion?
I think it's fine. It's fine. One with one bullet point. Of course, it's always a bit silly to have only one bullet point, but yeah, the content wise, it's I think it's fine.
Yeah, and I think even the quibble about one bullet point in the context for consistency with the others, I think it makes sense to have a single bullet point. So you think that's okay?
And it has to be noted that basically the second bullet point for the other three is basically an example for the chosen field type. So it is okay to go with a single one on the other. And yeah, combining it is okay from my perspective and even clearer. The only thing I'm not sure to refer, would it better to be to reference? Because it's basically about reference fields.
Yes, that's what I was going to suggest. I think just grammatically, it should be reference rather than refer.
Yeah. And just one question to the native speaker, is choose any content or configuration type okay, or would a different phrasing preferable? The any bit.
Yeah, I think any is correct.
Okay.
All right. So then let me cycle through these again. So the first one, two are Derek's open threads. Three and seven are sort of combined in that change we were just discussing. So this is number four. So list string item. Let me close the browser tools and list string item is a selection list. And this a lot of bullet points, but I think bullet points are scannable. Each one is just one line. I think that's okay. But anyway, what does he suggest? Yes, he doesn't think that it's useful to mention that the value is based on the name. And Derek agreed. Um, now, the last time we talked about this, which was just 2 weeks ago, Ralph and I agreed to push back on that. And I summarized the reasons here why I wanted to keep it, but let me interrupt myself. And it's this line right here. By default, the value is based on the name. I guess If we look at the next page in the configuration, when you start typing Apple, you get automatically the machine name is lowercase version. Oh, this is so buggy. What was it? Black cherry. So spaces get converted to underscores. Um, and Derek is willing to compromise, but Laurie is insisting. I don't think any of the three reasons provided actually justify keeping it here. In fact, I think it's quite the opposite, since it's not helping you with the selection of the field type. It's trying to explain how the field type is configured. That's pointing to a problem elsewhere that should not be included here to make the selection process more complicated. And that seems to be his general theme, that um, he thinks we're occasionally inserting information out of context, or in the wrong context, that we should solely be focused on choosing between the two types. And in his opinion, this information doesn't help with that. I guess my feeling is that I still think we should include this, but I'm willing to compromise.
I think when the value is not predetermined, it's just a defaulting. I think it's not necessary to have that information on the selection. I think it's more important to have the value displayed so that the user can see it where it comes from. So I think it's not like because if it's not limiting but the configuration, it's not necessary to be on the first page. So I think I agree with Maureen.
Okay. Ralph, are you willing to go along?
Oh, I'm not sure. But on second look, also the question, do the examples, the second and third example really help? Strictly speaking, there it shows what is possible, but strictly speaking, if you take into consideration that we go with the by default the value is based on the name and remove that, and then you see basically apple, apple, mango, mango. That makes sense. But then you have portrait and 1 to 2, square 1 to 1, and if you go to the next page, and you only have the name, and we're talking here about values, and that in parentheses, it's not that straightforward from my point of view. So might compromise on it. Might be the problem sits not in the right context and is on the next page, the actual problem, but still, it's potentially confusing.
Yeah. And I think what Larry is saying is that if the problem is on the next page, we should fix it on the next page. We shouldn't try to fix it here. And again, I agree with you. I think that we put this here for a reason. I still believe in that reason. Um, but I'm willing to compromise in the interest of getting this issue in. Again, what he said, it's not helping with the selection of the field type. It's trying to explain how the field type is configured. That's pointing to a problem elsewhere that should not be included here.
I think there should be follow-up sketch for that one. So I think it definitely is fixing, but it should be fixed for the second page.
Right. And I muttered, this page is so buggy when looking, whoops.
Mm.
There are all sorts of bugs on this page. Um, so yes, we should definitely have an issue to fix the many problems on this page. What happened there? Um,
Still,
and part of that is, as Ralph pointed out, is the different choice of terms, name and machine name rather than label and value, and other
yeah, but
things.
the problem is really, from my point of view, and therefore I think it's still at the very least partially related and affects the step before, is the point that we are talking in the bullet point about value. We get to the next page, there you show allowed values, but then you see only name and machine name. And so, yeah, that is a detail that is confusing for me if I would not know where that page is coming from. Before that, you had fields there. So, yeah, but as Simo said, yeah, then before that issue goes in, then a follow-up should be opened at the very least.
Yeah, for the multiple problems on that page.
Yeah.
Uh,
But the name, the microcopy about how things are named should be tackled.
right,
Because,
as part of that issue, for scope, we're looking at the text on this page, but not the next step in the form.
yeah, but I have stomach ache removing it, but it's okay. So, so I don't see it. It makes it more confusing. Can also see the other way around. That without it, it could also be confusing. So, strictly speaking, uh, I'm not sold on, because Laurie also hasn't brought any argument in his regard. To be honest. So,
Well, I've tried. I haven't been able to convince him. Do you want to continue the discussion on this thread? And
I don't have any energy, to be honest.
right.
For the sake of consensus, in air quotes, let's remove it, but I'm not sold.
All right. Your objections are noted. And as I said, I agree with you,
Yeah.
but I would like to finally get this issue
Yeah.
in. I'm willing to make some compromises. Um, and arguably the discussion on these last few points amounts to bike shedding.
Yep.
Um, there are so many other improvements in this issue that the net effect will be positive, even if there are some things that we disagree with. So let's see if I've kept track. This was the fourth open thread. The fifth one has to do with telephone item. So in context, oh, I have to enable the telephone module to do that in the terminal window that you can see between Rush. So I think I don't have to reload the page. I just have to reopen the
Yep.
window. And you know, it is just the text on this screen, a telephone number stored as a plain string. And so a couple of weeks ago, Larry asked, why are we describing how the telephone is stored here? We don't do that for other field types. Derek gave a link. I think the problem with these links is that when GitLab collapses a thread, um, the links don't work the links to that thread don't work anymore. So if I were to open all threads, then clicking on the link would work. Um, but that's such a nuisance. I just copied the comment here. Um, and I wrote that this is intended to be a hint that despite Drupal's love of structured data, it does not parse a telephone number into country code, area code, etc. That has implications for how the field is displayed. If you want a particular format for your telephone numbers, it's parentheses and hyphens, like 123 in parentheses, 456 hyphen 7890, or just hyphens, then you will have to do string parsing. We did pretty much the same for the email field. And Laurie's reply was, how would this impact the selection of the field? If they need to store a telephone, would they have a better option to go with? So as I said before, he's emphasizing that the point of these uh, of the text is to help you decide which field to choose. And I guess my only answer to that is that if if they want a better option, then they should look for contrib modules or write some custom code if they want the extra flexibility. And I'm not
But
sure whether it's worth making that argument or just going along. Go ahead.
but it's also a heads up. Basically, if someone is not fully aware or not a developer and only a site builder, and they think, oh, I have a phone number, so there might be more options, and then down the road, they realize, hey, it's only a text field. So having
Or
that
they,
kind of disclosure is due diligence from my perspective.
So is it the only difference is what kind of widget you can use? So it's
can you
either
say that again?
so the difference is about the widgets for telephone and rendering templates. So in a way, there should be something about what the difference is compared to plain text field. So maybe it would make sense to describe the difference instead of the similarity.
Okay. And I'm not sure there isn't any difference. I'm not sure what the difference is between a telephone field and a text field. Um, I guess another point I could make is that if you don't say that it's stored as a plain string, if you just remove that, then the description becomes just a telephone number, which doesn't add anything. So we would end up with then we should just remove the description and and then there's it's the only one of these fields that doesn't have a description. And well, I guess
Same
the
for
same
email.
argument would apply for email. So I guess there would be two that don't have a description. Um, are there any differences?
Um,
What happens when you add a telephone field? You can choose whether it's limited to one or unlimited or limited to something else. How is this different from a text field?
I'm currently comparing the manage form display options. Um, the difference is basically simply a constraint for the size of the text field on the manage form display. That is the sole difference to a telephone field. There you only have the placeholder.
So on a regular text field, you'd also have an option for the
Size of
maximum
text
length.
field. Yeah.
And you could use a placeholder on an ordinary text field, right?
Yeah.
How about the managed display?
Manage display is oh, there you have basically the option, the format as a telephone link. That is the only difference.
Right.
It's one more option. But you could also convert a telephone link, the telephone field, the output to plain text as you show there. That's the only difference.
So I guess there is some advantage to using a telephone field rather than a plain text field in that it handles the output. Presumably it creates let's see, an email makes a mail to link. I'm not sure what the markup is for telephone link. Um,
Can
and
take a
I
picture.
guess on mobile devices, typically you can select a telephone number and it will send you to your phone app.
1 second.
There used to be a different way of showing telephone numbers so that you would have a number, full stop number, full stop number, full stop as the title or label of that, because then it's easier. So it's not read as a in one, like 1 million something for screen reader, but it's like one by one. So there is a difference, but could be also done using by a theme per field, not field type. Uh,
Simo, I'm sorry, but your audio is very choppy. I'm having trouble
Yep.
making out what you're saying. Could you try typing it into the chat?
so yeah, maybe I can try it again with a louder voice. So for screen readers, telephone numbers should be read number by number, not as a one something a big number like 1 million something. So for screen readers, they should be announced differently, telephone numbers. So that might be a difference, but if it's implemented in the theme.
Okay, so Ralph pasted into the chat the markup for telephone link. It's an anchor link, and the protocol for the link is TEL. Um, and that presumably is, as you say, Simo, tells the browser how to announce it when using um, a voice interface. And it also lets mobile users trigger their phone apps. So getting back to Simo's earlier suggestion that instead of describing what's similar, we should describe what's different. What's different about the telephone field rather than a plain text field um, has to do with this output that it automatically handles um, the markup. And
Is that the case also for email? I'd quickly check.
I suspect so.
Most likely, but just make sure. By default, the option is basically a plain text output for the front end. But yeah, you also then have the option. Yeah, it's simply instead of tell, it uses the mail to. But same case. But yeah, I like Simo's idea.
So then should we suggest different text here instead
Yeah.
of saying that it's stored as a plain string, a telephone number, which can be output as a telephone link?
With the option for telephone link output or something like that. Yeah.
No, I accidentally clicked in the wrong spot. So you're suggesting something like that, Ralph? A
Yep.
telephone number.
It as
Uh,
a or telephone link or a tel link, or not sure what the correct attribution would be here. Is a telephone link or clickable telephone links?
um, I think saying link is enough. You don't
Yeah,
need to
true.
say that it's clickable.
Yeah,
And as Seema points out, even if you don't click on it, if you're using a screen reader, um, it changes how it's read.
yeah,
Um, and I expect that if we suggest that change, we'll get the same pushback. That this page is about choosing the field type. Why are we talking about how it's displayed? And I guess our answer is that um, that we
Well,
need.
if
Go ahead.
yeah, if it's the only difference. So
Yeah, we're
what?
trying to say why we would want to use these instead of the text field.
exactly. Because otherwise you could ask what is the purpose of an email field or telephone field in the first place?
Right. So shall we try that? Let's
Yeah.
see what they reply.
And for email, you could do the same. Instead of store display an email, optionally displayed as a email link.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm pretty sure that one of the next threads has to do with email field. Maybe not. So we're talking about telephone item. And the next thread is field to store a number. So this is date and time. Field to store date and time values.
It's the help text on the date and time.
Yes. Close browser tools. And then it's not this text, is it? It's
No, it's if you click now, if you go back
yep.
and click on date and time, and then the help text underneath the label field.
Right. It's this text that
Yeah.
we're discussing. And I guess the suggested change is small. It's just to remove the words using the Manage Display tab. So let me Again, open my browser tools. And just for the sake of discussion, I'll just put it in italics. Not quite what I had in mind. Um, anyway, it's just this part that he suggests removing. Um, so keep the part of the sentence that says all field types can be displayed in various ways, but just remove the reference to the Manage Display tab. And that's a small enough change that I'm willing to compromise there too. And then I guess there's some discussion. I asked what he meant by being more compatible with contrib solutions, and he explained that in the current state of Drupal Canvas, there's a different UI for configuring displays. And so, for the sake of people who are using Drupal Canvas, we should not assume that displays will be configured using the managed display form. So I think the first time I looked at this, I didn't realize that it was just the end of that sentence he wanted to remove. And I'm willing to go along with that. What do you think?
Yeah, but the
Yeah,
point, okay, go first, Simo.
yeah, I think that's fine.
Mm. But
Could be configured also at template level.
Right. If you're willing to add some templates to your custom theme, you get even more options for how to display it. Ralph, what do you want to say?
but the point is a question I would ask myself when I'm reading that and I take the perspective of someone not familiar with Drupal, then I would ask if I just read all fields can be displayed in various ways, and then I say to myself, oh, nice, but where and how? And to have some sort of pointer that I've considered helpful, to be honest. Otherwise, you could argue what is the purpose of something like all field types can be displayed in various ways? It's don't see much purpose in that either.
Well, again, our reason for adding that second sentence is that the first option, date time, specifically says it's human readable string format, and that's talking about how it's stored in the database. And we want to reassure the site builder that even though it's stored that way, it can be displayed in whatever format they choose.
Mm. Um, I wonder if you strike you just striking it, would it make sense instead? Something like all field types can then be displayed in various ways, or something like all field types can be, what's the name for the Oscar there? No, display is the correct one. No, then yeah, it would be by check. Yeah, removing it would be okay then.
I think that may be the last thread.
Before you go on to the last one, could
Okay.
you quickly open the referenced issue, please?
From Larry's last comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think he's saying that Drupal Canvas might be changing the way it works. And that's what this issue is about. So for the sake of the recording, this is issue 3564234. Add display builder agnostic overview page for display modes. So this is a
I
core
remember.
issue.
That issue is basically moving, you have under structure the display modes, form modes and view modes, and move that into content types.
Create a new overview page for managed display that serves as display builder agnostic navigation hub. Add new rooted admin structure type, manage bundle display. That displays a table overview of all display modes for the bundle.
Okay, now I remember.
So I haven't looked at this issue before, but I guess you have.
Yeah, briefly.
Okay, so we're willing to go along there. I think the last issue is what we combined with the earlier one. So we already discussed this, and then just cycle through the issues once again. There are the two from Derek, where he hasn't responded to our latest comment, but Derek seems to be willing to go along with our suggestions. There's the entity reference item, which combines with his last thread. String item. Where we agreed to go along with removing the mention of the default telephone item and the date time. Yeah, so we've gone through all of them and we're nearing the end of the hour. We have 5 minutes left. I guess I can update the merge request based on the changes we've discussed. Unless one of you wants to volunteer to do that. Okay, Should we just end 5 minutes early, or is there something else you want to bring up quickly?
No.
Okay, well, let's hope that the new year will finally bring this issue into Drupal core.
Hopefully, hopefully.
And
We'll see.
and hope to see you again next week.
Yep.
Yep.
See you
Thanks.
next week. Have a
Yep.
nice weekend,
Nice
everyone.
weekend.
Thank you. You
Yep.
too.
Bye.